Thank you. Next, I want to introduce our cadets for tonight. Our cadets tonight are Cadet Lieutenant Commander Vicenzo Bassano is a senior and fourth-year cadet. This year, Cadet Bassano will serve as Uvalde High School NJROTC's commanding officer. At the award ceremony last year, Cadet Bassano was the recipient of the American Legion General Military Excellence Medal. Second, we have Cadet Lieutenant Ivani Esquivel is a junior and fourth-year cadet as well. This year, Cadet Esquivel will serve as a Uvalde High School NJROTC's executive officer. Cadet Esquivel has served as the administration officer, color guard team captain, and officer in charge at many events. We expect great things from her again this year. Thank you so much. We will now have our invocation. Our invocation tonight for the regular board meeting will be once again led by Ms. Pastor Tony Grubin of Baptist Temple Church.
Twice today. That's okay to pray more than once. Let's pray. Lord, I do thank you for the blessings of being here. I pray for the blessings of life and the gift of hope. And Lord, we do thank you that in the children we see hope for the future. And Lord, we give thanks for our teachers, our administrators, our board, and all those who help in feeding them and transporting them, and all the coaches and all the band directors and all the different things that go on around our school. Lord, I thank you for our children. And Lord, I pray that you might nurture them, that you might help them to grow, that they might learn. And Lord, that they might see that there is a positive future for them. And so, Lord, we just pray for this year and for this time, Lord, that it might be blessed by you and by your hand touching each of them, and for each teacher and each administrator, and lift them all up. Lord, we thank you for our parents. And Lord, we lift them up as well, that we too have a responsibility and a part in playing in the growth of our children and the maturing and of our community. And so, Lord, we lift all these things up to you, knowing that you care more than we, and Lord, that you are the one who knows better than we. And so, Lord, we ask for your help. We ask for your wisdom. We ask for your guidance. And Lord, we give thanks that for the blessings that you give to us. Lord, we love you and thank you so much for loving us. And we pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Cadets, if you now lead us in the pledges, please. Thank you. You may be seated. All right, going to item number 2, the open forum for tonight. Open forum tonight, we do have the limited five, so each one will get 3 minutes, total of 15 minutes for open forum. We'll start with the first one. We have, I want to say that's Ansem bills. I get that correct, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure. All right, sir, go ahead.
About a year ago, I stood here and I asked you to make real change. You've not done that. You've disrespected this community with your 2x4s. And the fact that you defied the Texas Attorney General's office by not being transparent. Diana has asked y'all, and so has many others. You try to teach our kids respect when you don't have respect for us or our community. Elections are coming up. I know who I'm voting for, and it's not you.
Thank you, Mr. Bills. Appreciate it. All right, moving on to number 2. We have Ms. Diana Carra.
Diana Olvedo Carew. I wanted to address the district board this evening, and I want to make sure that I understand correctly that tonight you are considering a resolution for a no recall on the appointment of Javier Flores to the Uvalde County Appraisal District Board. If I am correct in what I am believing is what you're going to be considering tonight and voting on, I'm very disappointed. This board has rules to follow. And one of the rules that exist under state statute is that the individual who is elected to serve on these boards has to be a resident of Uvalde County. Mr. Flores is a resident of Zavala County. He has no problem serving on the district board because Batesville schools are under the district of Uvalde. However, he does not have the right or really shouldn't even have been placed himself into consideration. And I know that this particular year, he indicated he wanted to continue to serve. Mr. Flores has been on that board for over 10 years, and it is beyond me as to why a person who is continually recognized by yourselves and others as a good man, a person who's contributed to this community in one way or another. We're talking about issues of integrity and ethics. And if I were Mr. Flores, I would have stepped down as soon as the issue was brought forward by Mr. Roberto Valdez from the Appraisal District Office. I'm also surprised at the fact that some of you, as well as those that have come before you on this board, and I'm assuming that the recommendation and support of your superintendent, prior administration, possibly this administration, has recommended for you to consider a no recall resolution. It is unethical. It is unjust. It really, how can this district continue to make the types of missteps that you make given the tragedy of May 24th, 2022? I don't know if you have an answer for the comments that I've made this evening, but if what I'm saying to you this evening is true, it is your responsibility to ask Mr. Flores to take a vote to remove him as a member of that board, given what state statute requires and what is your responsibility to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Diana. Appreciate it, ma'am. Going on to number 3, Berlinda Arriola.
Hi, good evening. I stood up here in May and I asked for a town hall meeting to be at least put on the agenda, and that hasn't happened. So now I have to sit up here and have less than 3 minutes to say what I have to say. But one of them being is that I think we need to have one. It's time, and it's been more than a year since we had our last town hall meeting, and it's not fair to the public. Mr. Patterson, I read in the paper as your response to why you are still here, or why y'all have stopped looking for a permanent superintendent. And in your words, you basically said that y'all wanted some stability as far as all this stuff is going on, which is great. I agree, stability is great. But if we have that stability, why not sign the contracts and get paid, you know, the way you should get paid, opposed to as much as you're getting paid? Just feel like if you're going to do some type of stability, why not sign a 1 or 2 year contract? The other thing that I want to discuss is the removal of Mr. Harold's name from the auditorium. When Dr. Harold stepped down, a lot of ugliness came out from the past. His parents or his dad was brought up, and a lot of things resurfaced that were inappropriate. And I don't feel, and a lot of people don't feel, that Mr. Harold deserves his name on an auditorium that is prominently Hispanic children that go to that school. So I would like to have that put on the agenda to be discussed. at some point. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Ardila. Next one, we have Ms. Nicole Auburn.
Hi, I'm Nicole Ogburn. Many of you on the board, I'm sure know who I am. I've grown up here. I've lived here my whole life. But I'm here today representing not only myself with Uvalde Elementary, but as a teacher that was at Robb Elementary. Last year we had come forth, and I know I had emailed several board members about mental health days and got responses back. And in the end, our teachers did get 2 mental health days last year, which it came towards the end of the year. And I do understand that we didn't have very many months left, but I'm coming to y'all today just to ask, not just for my school, but for the district, because for myself, I'm still going through a whole lot from last year. And I see a psychiatrist and counselors monthly. And those mental health days are important because if not, I'm using my days, sick days or whatever, to go see a counselor. And that's not just myself or teachers that work with me at Uvalde Elementary, that's throughout the whole district. Because not only were we affected, but there were others outside of us that were affected by this. So that I was just coming to ask, we had spoken to some teachers and administrators from Parkland. And to this day, even 5 years later, they get 10 mental health days a year. That's 1 day a month to basically go see a healthcare provider, or even there are some days that I just can't get myself out of bed and just need that day to decompress. And so I'm just coming to ask if maybe sometime we could consider doing that for our teachers and our staff here in our district. And I'm not just asking, like I said, for me, I'm at like as a district as a whole. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Nicole. Appreciate it, ma'am. Lastly, we have Mr. Francisco Ramirez.
My child attends Flores Elementary, and my main concern is with security. So I'd like to know how many officers are employed with UCISD, and is it an adequate number of officers needed to comply with HB 3 should DPS decide to pull troopers next week? That is at least a minimum of 1 dedicated officer per UCISD campus during regular school hours.
Yes, sir. I believe we have what, 8, sir? We have 8.
And okay, with that
So
being answered, Uvalde High School and Uvalde Junior High, I'm sure would require more than 1 officer.
yes, sir. We have 1.
So the other officers would not be able to hop back and forth from campus to campus.
Right. We have
If
the
they
8,
would
but we
require-
did post- we do have a post out there to hire more officers as well.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Another concern is with the Raptor system. And if it's still in use, why is that still in use if it proved to have been a failure? Why is it taking so long to install a vestibule system? I'm not sure if all campuses have a vestibule system installed. And I know myself from I've seen personally other school districts that have a vestibule system and have a monitoring system, and they have a keyless entry for admins. And I as far as I'm concerned, not every campus here has that. So that's another concern of mine. And if UCISD can afford to spend up to $1 million on housing as a recruitment method for the incoming teachers, why does a UCISD campus my child attend have a 2x4 to lock doors for a blockade? 2x4s. I mean, I help me understand that. It's just going over my head. I don't get it. Let's see. I'm sorry.
I was letting him go to wait, make sure not to interrupt.
I mean, it just seems like you're falling back on a lax environment that was here before. and just procrastinating on issues that are a big concern, security issues that are still a big concern at the moment. Thank you.
Mr. Patterson is going to address quite a bit on the superintendent's report on this
Right,
one.
yeah,
She'll cover quite a bit.
Better, and I
Answer those
appreciate that.
questions.
Thank you.
But I will let you know, I don't know if you saw the video that was released on Friday, but I was out there at Flores Friday. And we did a walk around, but I did not see the 2x4 that you're mentioning. So just wanted to make sure to let you know that I did do a walk around. Ms. Patterson were there.
Okay.
And I did not notice it. So I'm not sure if it was there previously or.
So
what was
pictures
it?
that were circulating about.
But you'll address it as well on the security.
Okay,
Okay, yes, sir.
thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. All right, that concludes our open forum session. Thank you. All right, moving on to item number 3, superintendent's report. Mr. Patterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. David, can we get that started? Trustees, we have a PowerPoint for you. We're going to go through some updates and just some general information. Here, they're about the projects, and if you'll just be patient, it may look like we're not in any order here, but I don't have quite the skills as Miss Benderly has with the PowerPoint. That was so pretty. So next slide, please, David. This is too small for certainly the audience to see, but it's about $1 million worth of projects that we are re-engaging in, and I'll talk about the funding for all that in just a minute. So if you'll just hang, Mr. Keith, could you come up? We've got about $1 million here that we had to, we just, for lack of a better word, we ran out of money to complete the scope of the project from right after the tragedy through the course of this year has expanded as we see more and more needs. So we didn't have enough funding to do everything we wanted to do through the course of last year. And so that's changing here, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But some of the projects that we partially completed that now we will be re-engaging with, I wanted Mr. Keith to talk about this part of that.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Patterson. So some of this is a continuation, and some of this is to move into further phases of enhancing the security. I have it broken down on your worksheet there in 4 general areas. One of them that upper left there that I'm calling phase 1 doors. That would be doors that are targeted for having access control with a badge to be able to open the door, as well as sensor for knowing if the door is ajar. Carrying that across, the phase 2 doors are also exterior facing doors, but those are doors that would still have traditional locking and unlocking mechanisms. However, would have a sensor installed to know if the door is ajar or not. Continuing on down, the gates, there's a few of our campuses, the way that the fencing and the gates were installed. That is not meaning to install a gate. What I'm meaning by that is adding access control to a gate to have the way it landed on the campus to afford somebody to use a badge to be able to open that gate. And the last one in the bottom left is actually two parts. Both of those areas do have cameras right now. However, from the governor's office, there are certain manufacturers that now are no longer permitted. This is legacy cameras that are not part of our wave that we've just done this past year, but need to be removed and installed to be the same as we're using district-wide now. And also to install like a failover server, I'll call it, in the data center, so that if we have any of our recording servers on the campus have technical difficulty, the cameras can roll over to another larger central server to continue recording while we're doing repairs. So that's a quick overview of what those areas are and what they're targeting.
Thank you. I just want to say to the board and our members here this evening that when Mr. Keith mentioned sensors, we talked for several months that we had hoped to be able to do this district-wide. A sensor will be placed on all of our exterior doors, where if it's supposed to be locked and it's not locked, it doesn't come all the way shut. A student puts a shoe in there or something to let a friend, whatever. If the door is supposed to be locked and it does not lock for whatever reason, then the censor will send a message to the campus administration and also to our Security Operations Center. And so if that's not addressed immediately on campus, then our Security Operations Center personnel will notify the people on that campus that West Wing door 13 or whatever is not locked, and we'll send somebody down there right away to check that out. So we wanted those sensors everywhere on all of our exterior doors for sure. We did not, we weren't able to complete that project. So this is just a continuation of what we needed to do on all of our doors, our gates, as Mr. Keith said, and also the additional cameras that we didn't get into place. So that's that part of that. So Cash, thank you. David, we can go to the next slide. This is a busy slide. I'd like to, if there's anybody in the audience here that would like to more information on this slide, because it's busy, there's a lot of information. If you'll let my office know, I'll send you this, or we'll put it up on the website. But these on the left-hand side, these are grants that the district has secured or has been awarded for the 23-24 school year. And let me, if you don't deal with school finance, and I hope you don't, because it's extremely frustrating, but this is an additional source of revenue other than taxes and aid from the state of Texas. Okay, these are grants. It might be a state grant, it might be a federal grant that you apply for, and you state the reasons you apply for that grant. And then if you're awarded that grant, then you have to spend the money the way the grant says you have to spend the money, and there's follow-up accountability for that. There's reports, and it's audited and all of that. So just for example, trustees, for 2023-24, the VOCA grant has to do with support for nurses and counselors. Okay, so the amount there that was awarded is $625,000. The remaining amount is zero, because all of that money for 23-24 is paying for additional nurses and nurses' salaries, any additional counselors and counselors' salaries, any additional school counselors, and mental health counseling supplies. So you don't see all the information there, but the VOCA grant is complicated, it's lengthy, and you go through and you ask for all these things that I just outlined. And if they agree with you, they give you amount of money. If we may have asked, if we asked for $1 million, they probably said, no, this is all your district is allotted. That does happen from time to time. So Project Serve, I'd like to, I've got several thank yous to say tonight to some people who have helped us a great deal. But Project Serve is part of when the stimulus money came out 2 or 3 years ago. Project Serve was, and a result of some tragedies similar, well, not similar to ours in scale, because you can't really get there, but school districts that needed security that may have had some kind of breach of some kind. And so for school districts to have additional officers, if they had none, or if they needed more to be able to pay for more, we pay, you'll see that was $1.5 million. This is our second allotment of Project Serve. That's why the number 2 is there. We were told that the second round of Project Serve would not be coming, but we had some help from Austin on that. And I really appreciate that. Corey Green was a huge help in helping us kind of maneuver through that. So we applied and we were able to get to talk to some people, and we were awarded that again. And that's, we were able to pay for salaries of our officers and our campus monitors, our dispatchers who man the Security Operations Center, and then also pay what we have support of our Community and Schools and Bereavement Center. We're able to help them help us. And so that money is expended on those things. The ESSER 3C, the C there is just for my benefit because I lose track of all these grants. That ESSER 3 was an amount of $1 million that was awarded to us from the Commissioner of Education. The commissioner came down to, of course, they were always willing to help, but I suggested that his office needed to come down to Uvalde to try to get a better feel of things down here rather than from Austin. And he got here very quickly with some of his upper staff and awarded us $1 million for instructional purposes. As you saw on Ms. Bendeley's presentation, that we're not in the best shape financially for a lot of reasons. We're a deficit budget without any fluff in there. This $1 million we went over in detail with the commissioner's office what our latest STAR scores were and what some of our positions we were not able to fill. And so we were awarded $1 million for instructional purposes. With that money, we spent the entirety of that money on extra teachers at grade levels throughout the district, which needed additional help. So that $1 million has gone to core coaches to help go into grade levels, into classrooms, and help teachers, help students who are struggling, as well as additional campus level help with instructional coaches that are campus wide, as well as additional academic deans. So that was what that entirety of that money is appropriated for, is for extra help for the students who need it at every campus. In addition, I'm very happy to announce, extremely happy to announce that the next grant we're calling it the Commissioner 2 grant. But trustees, when the legislature was in session this summer, we had our representative, Tracy King, carry a rider to the Appropriations Committee for several $1 million to help finish these projects we're talking about tonight. That rider if you're not in the original budget, you have to try to get a rider that they can attach to the budget and hopefully get it approved. That went absolutely nowhere, got stiff-armed on that, and didn't get one penny allotted from the legislature in addition to what they have to give us, as you saw through the budget. So any special appropriations, we didn't get a penny. So we were told that the commissioner would have $1 billion or so to be able to be a competitive grant to help districts finish their security officers, security projects, so that we were going to have to apply like everybody else. Well, this was not easy to get, I can assure you, but the commissioner, we sent an additional request about 6 weeks ago. We had to follow it up 2 or 3 times, phone calls and emails. But I was notified last Friday night that we had received what we had asked for, which was $3,380,000 to complete these security projects. And that's why we're able to do some of the things we're doing here. Now, though, that award has to be spent on safety and security projects, right? It's not for administration. It's not for building new schools. It's not for instructional supplies. It's for, we have to report very specifically what it is we're spending that money on. And so I responded to Corey today specifically about all that, but it includes $1 million on the projects that Cash was talking about. Vestibules for every campus. That was a goal of ours, to have vestibules. And I'll talk about that again a little bit more in just a minute. But our vestibule, every campus and the campus administration, the central office, will be getting vestibules, which will, well, I'll just wait. I have a piece on that. So between our vestibules and everything else, we're moving forward on that. And that includes, now some of these other grants at the bottom, you'll notice that they're split. because they might have a little more flexibility. And if we don't have enough in one grant, we'll take some of this if it's safety and security and be able to expend it to help on others. The Las Vegas Raiders, you remember, some of you remember last year, they were one of the first organizations to come up, and they allotted $1 million to help us get started on the projects. Well, there's $342,000 left in that, and we're going to use $100,000 for door upgrades at Flores. Oh, and before I forget, let me address the 2x4 issue. The 2x4s, the 2x4s are no longer at Flores. They're gone. The 2x4s were well-intentioned idea to get better security with a bracket on the inside of the doors, and then 2x4 in a lockdown situation. Want to assure the board of trustees and our audience here tonight that every door at Flores already had a deadbolt lock that was functional. Okay, there was a concern about a couple of older doors that had too much leeway, just settled over the years, that we thought that some additional security would help. That was before we got final word on this. So there's no two, there's one. No, that's not true. There's one. I left one on the double doors at the library, and that'll remain there just in case. It's only in case the 2x4 is sitting behind over there to the side. And if there's a lockdown situation, an active threat in the building at Flores, then the librarian has the option to put that 2x4 in that bracket to brace that door if she wants. But that's the only one that's there, and we will be replacing those doors. $100,000 from the Moving Forward Foundation, and also there's some other down here out of the COPS grant, the Department of Justice grant. We're going to use some. You'll see some door upgrades there. We're going to use some money there, and so we'll use that $250,000 to replace all the doors that we possibly can at Flores with new doors, new secure doors. So that's a big project. Also, you will notice, trustees, you will notice, and community, you'll notice that we've identified some additional fencing projects that either the principals have requested, or we just through the course of the year, when the initial plan for fencing went up, we've noticed some areas that would benefit from additional fencing. The east side of Dalton, that open area right there, some teachers were concerned and the administration were concerned because that was opened by that circle drive back there, and there was nothing to protect from the windows. So we're going to secure that with additional fencing there. That's just one part. Also at Flores, in front of Flores, it's so open with the windows and the doors. We'll be addressing those issues as well. And rekeying the district, we are moving toward the swipe cards, swipe access. Our maintenance director, Rodney, currently carries the keys around in a backpack because there's like 1,000 keys for our district, which is not safe. Especially over the period of years since the district has been rekeyed. So we're going to be rekeying the district, and that's a very expensive project as well. We're going to be using the school safety grant that was awarded for this year, $256,000. We're going to be spending all of that, $240,000 on rekeying the district, and an additional $16,000 will go to some of the fencing that I was just talking about. The Department of Justice grant used to be called the COPS grant. This is an additional help for security for police and other areas as well. The budget from our police department this year will come out of the Department of Justice grant. We're going to use some of that money for the door upgrades, as I mentioned, and there'll be $217,000 left in that granted as other projects come up or we have cost overruns. And then Stronger Connections grant, that's another $1 million that was allotted from the Commissioner's Office to help our instructional programs in the areas of instructional supplies, software programs, assessment programs, additional assistance for teachers, especially with the additional teachers we have going in and helping the kids. We wanted some of the most advanced software programs that we could possibly have. So if one of the teachers that we hired to assist the teacher comes in and working with a small group of students who are way behind, then these software programs will immediately assess them in whatever the core area they are in and have activities readily available for them in the objectives that they need in the areas that they're weak in. And it is very high tech, and we appreciate that amount. So again, those are that's a lot of money that's coming in from other sources other than the state. And I'll talk about that a little bit more as well, but. Oh, it locked. Yes, it did lock. The deadbolt lock. Well, the deadbolt lock works. I went over there and tried it myself. The principal was a little concerned that if you go to the library, those two handles, you got two doors, right? That when she pulled on it, she thought there was too much give in it. That if you pull, then you try to get something in between the doors and pry them open or something, that it might allow for that. So it does have a lock. It does work. It is secure, probably minimally secure, but we left the bracket on there just in case until we could get the new doors put on. That we're gonna moving right into that like now, as far as getting cost and getting the doors ordered. We have some doors in from last year that are waiting to be placed, and so we're going to move quickly. But I have to be honest with you, there's a lot of school districts who want those same doors. Okay, so supply chains and getting them in and everything is I can't tell you exactly when, but as far as the process of getting them, ordering them, we should have that done next week. Okay, sir.
Just to use my mind real quick, is it a deep opening door?
It is an outward opening door, and when it shuts on the inside of that door on the classroom side, there's on the kids side, there's two metal brackets and a big.
So if I was to come, I have to push the door into the kids, and that's what. Brackets. So,
Okay.
The way I would thought is going to where somebody had to be out there.
No. Okay. Because it was quicker and easier. We could get it done right away, and felt like it was, and we felt like it was additional security. We used to have the deadbolt on there anyway, so yeah. No.
Still.
Yeah.
Because the metal brackets are what's holding it, right? The braces.
Yeah, braces are metal. Yeah, but also different sizes of teachers have to, throw that too, but, so anyway, it was, I don't know the answer why we didn't use metal. It was like.
I've done that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
The choice was.
Yeah, okay.
I gave the principal saying more secure for the kids. I'm all checking.
Yeah.
I'm all for that. But just, I think simple, what was it, two foot, 3 foot, 4 foot?
Yeah, 2 doors, whatever that is. Yeah.
Somebody genius or somebody with that money can just easily put another one. I know from a teacher, pick it up, put it in place. And we'll. But there are 2x4 where people are, okay, what is this, not 2x4. But I'm just saying, I'm making it work.
Okay. Project update. Approximately $4.9 million has been spent since the time of the tragedy are encumbered on the selected areas: fencing, doors, gates, interior door hardware, card access, cameras, security operations. A lot of money, a lot of that is salaries. A lot of this is grants. Like we went over, police department, safety monitors. But some cameras, and really we're talking about additional cameras that we've identified throughout the course of the year, and related technology were not completed last spring, such as all of our sensors, our vestibules, and a single point of entry, which is critical. So we noticed that some of our gates and fencing were completed in the spring. It had to be adjusted. You know, adjusting those gates turned out to be really expensive. Dalton, Uvalde Elementary School, and Flores are going to be the subject of fences and gate improvements. But supply chains, equipment shortages, personnel shortages, all are factors in completing these projects. David, if we go to the next one, I want to talk about vestibules. That vestibules, I think, can mean different things in different districts, but for our point, for our discussion, what we're looking for a vestibule is, first of all, a single person entry. And what that means is that your campus with fencing and gating, that everybody is funneled into a single entrance, that there's nowhere else with the fencing and gating that anybody can go except through this main entrance. That's the whole purpose of trying to secure the campus, where and there's single person entry with a card access and card access, video, audio, and a keypad, buzz in from the office after identification, metal double doors with armor resistant glass, 2 sets in each vestibule. Inside the first set of double doors, there will be a check-in station with armor resistant glass. And following a check-in, if visitation is appropriate, that we can buzz in the second set of armor resistant doors. So David, this isn't perfect, but it's not a bad example. And it's very similar to what we would be trying to achieve. So if you look at the top of your printout, trustees, you'll see where it says the exteriors. Okay, so that would be coming from a parking lot or the street or walking up. And then you'll notice outside of the entrance between these first set of double doors, up at the left, you have audio. On the left, you have your audio video intercom, where you'll be able to ring a bell, push a button. The receptionist will be able to see the person, talk to the person. And then on the other side, you'll see 2 cameras, with one would be pointing down to the entry area and one out toward as you walk up to the area. So when we're monitoring these from the operations center or from inside the campus, you'll be able to see as visitors approach the building. So the first level here would be that they would be able to talk, see, state their business, why they're coming to school. And then if it's a legitimate reason and everything looks good, then the front desk there could push a button, and that person would be able to get into that first set of double doors. Now, when they're inside this, some people refer to this as the vestibule area or holding area or whatever. But in this area between the first set of double doors at the top of the page and the second set of double doors down at the bottom, 3/4 under the word vestibule, they would not be able to walk through the first set of double doors and walk right in through the second double doors. Would not be able to do that. They would check in, and there would be a counter, probably like the old movie theaters, where you have a glass and then something at the bottom to exchange documents and identification. So if that's all the parent or visitor needed to do, just exchange documents, they would do it right there. That glass in the counter is bullet resistant. And then if they need to go into the inside of into the main hallway, they have a teacher conference, there's a program at school that day, or whatever reason it might be, that person would have entrance, need entrance into the school hallways, that would be checked out in the reception area. And if everything is all legitimate, then the front desk would then buzz those people into the second armor resistant doors right there. Yes. And so that's basically it. You've got the 2 sets of armor resistant doors and glass. You've got the audio and visual surveillance. You've got face-to-face check-in at the counter to exchange documents and get approved to go into the school. If you are approved, then the second set of double doors would open and you would go through. So the money we've estimated the money for all of our campuses plus the central office to be about between 1.8 and 1.9 million dollars. Now, for some, nothing is simple, but there are more complex vestibules than others in our district. For example, the junior high, the drop off and pickup area is 50 or 75 yards away from the office, right? So what our designer that we walk through every school as we were looking, who's done this, he's ex-FBI person who he has his own business now, and he came in just at no cost to help us design some of this. What he suggested, and makes sense, is that none of these decisions are quite final, but like at the junior high, the drop off and pickup area would stay the same for the buses and cars, but then the visitors area would be moved around to that first east side. Okay, and so any visitors or adults would not be able to just be drop off and pick up when the kids were here for school. Those gates are locked. The vestibule and the entrance would be on the east side and come in. And what we'd need to do is take that first classroom on the right as you would come in that door, make that a reception area, office space. And so that's a little more work than others, but we are ready to start that. We've got the designs. We should have the money flowing from the grant within a couple of weeks, and you will see some of this. It'll be disruptive a bit. Okay, it's just going to be a little bit disruptive for a while, and we might have to have an alternative entry. But I really hate to wait until next summer to do that. The cost would be higher, and so yes, sir.
Ask a question real quick. So you're trying to, y'all already kind of be. Are you gonna, make these changes? We could get any input from the committee on how, what best to go about making these changes for the school?
Well, on this, Ruben, and no disrespect to anybody in the community, this is a standard vestibule that is pretty much, this just is the vestibule itself. If schools have vestibules anywhere, it's going to look very similar to this. Okay. And so it's the most cost-effective way, the most secure way that we can afford to do that with the amount of money that we have. And I don't know if that answers your question or not, but the 2 sets of double doors are critical.
Oh, yeah.
Well, okay, maybe I'm misunderstanding your question.
Yeah, I'm all for that. I believe the control issue, as far as, is this gonna be for a new school or the upgrades for?
No, these are the upgrades for existing schools.
Okay.
All of our schools, none of them have a secure bridge. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
But I just got mixed with the junior, like, the round.
Yeah.
So that's what.
Oh, well, it's 2.
Is that gonna stay the same, you said?
That's going to stay the same for student entry on buses and drop off and pick up. Okay, that area for students to come in, drop off and pick up, or on buses will stay the same.
Or you said, well, what is junior high?
No, we're at junior high right now. Okay, we're at junior high right now. And that,
You can tell, it's hard to control all that.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to get page, and I'm all for trying to control that, I'm looking here.
Yeah.
You know, to prevent any of this, not
Okay.
but that's what I was trying to see if there was gonna be change.
Yeah.
for that. And the change was already, you guys already accepted it. Like for that new school, like I went to go, the meetings that they had, I heard me having that shit.
Mhm.
It was, I thought it was gonna be, get information on, where to build the school, you know, get information on from the community, where about to build the school. Now I'm getting on topic, but I'm just trying to, point out that, you know, it's a everything to get, you know, I'm trying to be like, hey, we need to build this new school where it has a control point, one way in, one way out. We can-
No, it does. It does. Yeah. Yeah.
They're like, hey, it's already said, it's already, you know, and so here, coming here, this, that's what I was pointing out, and you guys already are making these changes without the input of the community, correct?
Yes. Well, I wouldn't say it like that, but you know, these changes need, these changes need to be made, and it's a standard. Say the highest safety recommendations that you can have is try to get a single where you have one entry and it's that. Okay, so you know, that's there's not much to discuss. I mean, we're here telling you today, we've been wanting to do this, start for a year. We finally got some funding to do it, and we're able to move forward with it. Because schools in today's environment, in my opinion, they need a secure vestibule to complete their safety plan. They do. And so that's what we hope to do with that.
No, yeah, I'm on for that. I just
Okay.
said it, I want to be
Okay.
involved with them, you know.
Yeah.
with that. Again, you
Okay.
know, it's not really, you know, in my opinion, like you said, you know, sad,
Yeah.
it's third world countries.
Yeah.
And that's.
Yeah, okay.
You know, but that's my bread and butter.
Yeah. Yeah. Adam? Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, now you put the sensor on the door. All the way around the school, right?
Yes, sir.
What's the response time if one of those doors breach?
The signal will be set immediately. If the door is open and it's not supposed to be, then the signal will be sent immediately. If if there's something blocking it to prevent it from, let's just say, because all your doors at the high school and all your doors at elementary are not going to be locked all the time. Kids are going to go to the playground, right? And so there's certain times of day that certain doors are going to be open. That's all programmed into the system. And if the doors are not locked when they're supposed to be locked, it will send a message to two places.
Yes, I understand that part. But what is the response time?
Okay, well, I can't say exactly, but as soon as the message goes out, somebody be notified to go down there. You would hope within a minute or two, somebody would be able to check that out. You know, I can't say, because if the administration is all in the cafeteria and the resource officer over here or there, and that door is way over there, it'll take a little time. It's hard to say exactly, but at least we will know immediately. And somebody will be discharged to that area.
Yeah, somebody specific, that only a certain amount of people can have access to that.
Yes, there's a message group. There's a message group that whoever is part of the design process, whoever is going to be on the, needs to know that. Maintenance, resource officer, principal, right? Yeah. Yeah.
To hold those people accountable.
That's right. That's right.
How does that work in Batesville? It's a small county, 21 miles away. How does that?
Well, we have a resource officer there, and right now we have DPS officers as well. And somebody asked earlier, I can't remember whether or not we were in compliance with the House bill that requires officers on each campus. The answer to that is yes, but you should know that because the state's not funding anything, that they don't have any authority to make you do that if you don't have the money. And there's an out. You can send the state, we don't have enough money to pay for these officers, and they'll grant you a waiver of not having the officers. So that's, yeah, that is, I just want y'all to know that that was not this board's, never entered into a conversation. We were going to try our best to hire enough officers that we could have one on every campus, and right now we do. Now, ideally, some of the investigations that you remember that were conducted this last year, you know, they recommended anywhere from 9 to 11 or 13 officers for a district our size. And a lot of it, you know, there's a lot of it does come down to funding, you know, and how much is enough and how much is too much for what you have. We feel pretty good that we were able to find the quality of people that we have. But we hope to continue the COPS grant. I should say this, I'm probably taking longer than anybody had anticipated, but the COPS grant is a federal grant that Representative Tony Gonzalez has worked with us very hard with. And whether you like Tony or don't like Tony, you know, I like Tony because he's really been trying to help us. What did I say? I'm sorry. Congressman, federal Congressman, Tony worked very hard through his office to get us some help. And these COPS grants come out in the fall every year. And Congressman Gonzalez, by being on the Appropriations Committee, is subject to by being on the Appropriations Committee, you're able to have a certain number of projects for your area. And so he and his office are working hard for us to continue that COPS grant, which allows us to hire additional officers that's outside of our regular budget.
So, from my understanding, if you do appeal for that, not to have the equity, please not to have a sufficient amount of officers. There are penalties that they implement. So I'm going to do that.
No, not that I'm aware of. I mean, you have to have the waiver approved because the law requires you have the officers. But there's many districts that say we can't afford these officers. If you're going to require something, help us pay for it. Okay. Well, they're not helping us pay for it. So that's why they can't, you know, they don't have any teeth in the requirement for consequences. They're not paying anything for it.
Are they going to be there half a year, another full year? The DPS that we do have?
That the agreement with DPS and the district was that they would reduce the number of officers somewhere around 50%. It was a little more, it was a little less than 50% this year. I think, well, I'd have to look. I don't have that in front of me, but I think we went from 38 or 9 down to 20. Chief, do you know? 23. So it was close to 50% reduction, and they're not going to be traveling with UIL this year like they did last year. That's what that's because they want to stand on the sideline and watch football. I'm just kidding. I don't know. Yeah, they're not. No, we're not funding that. And I've been the major told me they would not be doing that anymore. So that's an extra cost for them. But you asked how long it was going to.
Are they leaving Friday coming back, or is it the 22 staying here?
They're rotating. They're rotating. They're still rotating from across the state.
And they're still in charge. They're still reporting the 2 names that are still here.
One main.
One.
We had 2 last year, Captain Tejas and Lieutenant King. Lieutenant King's been put in charge this year.
So is he in charge over them?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Even, if for a school, if something happens with the school, they report to him and he's in charge over them.
Well, yes, yes. If something goes wrong, he's a man who we'll work with. And I'll say this for Lieutenant King, that he's a good man, and he's been very responsive to work well with us. And like if there's a problem, but Lieutenant King, Yes, he's been a excellent partner for us. If we see something we don't like, take it to him, he'll address it. So.
That's what I said, again, I'm responding to the things that happened that day.
Yeah.
You know, our former chief of police, for the school, wasn't in charge, I'm not, he's in charge, that's what I want.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
For that.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get that. I didn't, I got distracted. The timeframe is, we discussed it this year that they would come down about 50% with some other things like the UIL. And that we would, together, school board, DPS would review that at the end of this school year. Okay, and so that's yet to be determined. But they'll be here through this school year, and then we'll have a review on whether they want to. Lieutenant King, in the discussions at the end of the last school year, their terminology was, we don't want to leave entirely in the near future. So they may continue to reduce for another couple of years, or they may pull out altogether. I don't know. Pardon? Yeah. Yes. Okay, David, if we can move on. This is an updated picture of our Security Operations Center with our two dispatchers, Kimberly and Leticia. Now you can see, I wish we could take some people through that, but we don't want anybody to know where it is. So we're not going to do that. But you can see that on my far right, that first monitor over there monitors weather 24 hours a day. The other screens there and the screens that are in front of our hardworking ladies there, what they do early in the morning, they're monitoring all drop off and pickup areas. They can monitor any of our 600 to 700 cameras in the district, any one at any one time. They can have large views. They can have on the left, you see bigger pictures there, monitoring several areas of one campus or several areas of multiple campuses at the same time. And they've shown since school started this week, they've shown how valuable they are. They have noticed people that are on campus that shouldn't be. They've noticed immediately when they can actually see kids in the street in the drop off and pickup areas. Like, for example, if some kids were just wandering through the cars and nobody noticed, they can see that and notify somebody immediately. So we have got, I think it's a very, very valuable resource that not many people have. And there is, well, I'll talk about, I've got something else to say about this in just a minute. David, if we can go to the next one. I want to talk briefly about additional security software. There's a company that's called 911 Inform, and they've made a presentation to our district twice. President Fernandez was there at the last meeting we had with them, and they'll be, if you're interested in 911 Inform and you've got some device that can record on your TV, they'll be featured on CBS World News Tonight this Thursday, I believe, and on Good Morning America on Friday. They've been awarded one of the national from one of the national security watchdogs, the most innovative company of the year. But anyway, that being said, we're in the process of, there's some typos in here. Hope you don't notice, but there's quite a few. It was late, I guess, when I was trying to put this together, but The district we're finalizing an agreement with 911 Inform, which will provide additional security software programs, and 911 Inform is donating their services 100%. Doesn't cost us anything, and it's some districts are paying as much as $600,000 for it. And so they came in, they want to help, of course. It helps them if they help us, we know that, but that's okay. What it does is they're high tech enough as they can put and I'm kind of talking out of my knowledge zone here, but they form what they call the geotechnical fence around our district. It's controlled by satellite, and that any 911 call that comes in from anywhere in our geotech fenced area goes immediately to a group of people that we design similar to the sensor. And it will tell you immediately where the 911 is calling from. For example, if a 911 call comes in and somebody's hurt, they might be hysterical and all this, and it take a little while to settle down. Well, where you are? Well, I don't know exactly where I am or whatever. This will tell us exactly what location they're in, down to a classroom, down to a playground area, and even track the 911 caller if they're moving, and allow us to track it on our phones. It's an amazing system. And it will, I was going to say, we additionally initially hope that in our security operations center that we would have shifts working 24 hours a day, 3 people working shifts. But we moved away from that a little bit because, of cost and other things. We just didn't know what the need, if the need was enough to hire a additional person from 12 to 6 and at night. But that's still the possibility. But this will allow us that if any activity, it syncs with our current infrastructure and cameras, the current system that we have. It sinks into there. So if any activity is on any of the cameras, that we can, somebody smarter than me will design exactly what triggers them. But any activity, like if somebody's trying to breach a fence or something like that, or through a window, or suspicious vehicle in the area, anything that can inform us 24/7. So I think we're just in the initial discussions of what that program can actually do. It has an AI component that can do facial recognition stuff. And so they're giving us all of that. We're a little not quite ready for phase 3, which is kind of the AI stuff just yet. And they're not fully implemented with that either. But this is, like I say, no cost to us, and really has a chance of really enhancing our surveillance and our security 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So would you agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Sir?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Very awesome.
Okay. David, next slide. When we're talking about security, you'll see experts, so their language will be the same across venues. They talk about levels of security. You might hear, and you may have seen a diagram of a circle within a circle and a bigger circle and a bigger circle. And some security officials would say that you should shoot for 4 levels of security in your school buildings. So what does that really mean? That means if we have a lot of outdoor classrooms, right? And before our tragedy, most anybody could walk up to the outdoor classrooms and there'd be a classroom door, that opens up to the outside. Well, that would be if that teacher locked that door, that's like a level 1. That's your minimum base security, a lock and nothing else. Somebody can just come right to the door. That would be a level 1. A level 2 would be if you had interior doors, your exterior perimeter was securely locked. You know, and we have that, we have monitors and all that. So that would be a level 2 because an intruder would have to go through an exterior door to get to the interior door. So you had a level of security. Level 3 would be vestibules, because now you've got to go through a vestibule and then you still have to go to an exterior door and then to the classroom door in some cases, most cases. So that would be another level. And then fencing, you gotta have to go over the fence or through the fence, then through the vestibules, then through the exterior door. So you see kind of how the pattern goes. And so many districts are striving to get to a level 4, which we are very close to having a level 4 and should be there once we get our vestibules completed. And then just additionally, you know, an SRO would be a level of security. We have security monitors. If you remember the last year, we very quickly hired monitors to just walk around and check our doors. I mean, that's all they did. Check our exterior doors, check. And even when we had that breach last year that from the auditor that walked in while the cafeteria door was open for a little bit. The team that was here to check our security, we kind of got lost in the guy walking in on us, which is, you know, we deserved all the criticism we got on that. But they checked 3 of our schools and 100% of the exterior doors were locked. So, you know, those security monitors are valuable. Our principals asked for that, those security monitor for the board to approve that again this year. And we are doing that again. So, you know, we've got an SRO now on every campus. We got security monitors. That's just another level of protection. And we have DPS too, you know, so hopefully they'd be there if we needed them. I think they would be. And then we have our security operations center monitoring as well. So we are still trying to do everything possible with the funding and the guidance and the training and all of that we have to provide all the levels of security that we have there. And then finally, I just want to, there's a financial accountability component to all of this. You know, we talked about the amount of money, you know, coming in for all of these things. I just want everybody to know, the board and our audience, that our internal monitoring, Miss Bendeley's office, you know, the internal audits, I don't know how well y'all know Miss Bendeley, but nothing's getting misappropriated with Miss Bendeley in our business department. Okay. It's just not going to happen. And there's internal audits constantly just within our processes and procedures. We also have the financial rating system where the state does monitoring of these expenditures. And then if you have a federal grant, you have to continue to report to the feds how this money is being spent. And if you don't spend it like you say you're going to spend it, you're not going to get that money next time. Okay. And you could be worse if that money ended up somewhere it wasn't supposed to go. So there's that, you know, the federal program. And then we have our annual third-party audit that's required by the state. So they come in, somebody from outside, an independent auditor comes in. So there's checks and balances, and you just need to know that the money is appropriated to the designated programs. If they'll go to those designated programs, or they will go to the interim superintendent's retirement bonus program. One of those two things. If there's any money left over. Yeah. Pardon? Miss Bendeley, our CFO, Chief Financial Officer. So those monies are going to be spent one way or the other. And but you need to the accountability program. It's important to the community. We've heard that. Transparency, accountability on our finances. You need to know where this money's going. And I can just, you know, there's human error. We're human.
That's even.
Business.
When they first started being donated, right, when the soul.
Yeah.
Training started, everything has been accounted for, or better, how much money have been coming, he said for $1 million from the regular.
Yeah. Mhm.
You know, everything.
Yeah.
And she's been on top of it.
Well, she was kind of dropped in on top of it.
Okay.
And so yeah, no, she's on it. Miss Bentley's on it, and I'm responsible for Miss Bentley.
I mean, you came in a little bit after.
Yeah.
You know, Mr. Earl was in charge, I mean, that's what we were saying.
Yeah, there was-
Read this or read this, was it her? That was, I mean.
Well, there was a lot going on with a lot of money flowing a lot of different directions right at first, but no, I'm not saying that. I don't know that, Ruben. I don't know exactly about that. All I know is that the money that did come in got where it was supposed to go. Okay,
I mean, you're saying that you don't
Yeah.
know.
well, we turned, as soon as money started coming into our district, and I wasn't here, but what I've been told, we would checks would just come in to the front office, checks in a envelope, just maybe the second day that started happening, all that was funneled to the bank. All that, everything went immediately to the bank. And so they set up the fund where all that money would come in. And so
Is there anywhere where we can get this?
I'm sure there is, but that,
I'm just saying, I'm
Yeah.
trying to put
Yeah.
I'm, putting two and two together, we live here, we're from here, everybody talks, and that's, like you say, well, all these things that need to happen, we agree with you, funding is very important. But from what we were told, and all this money that we was getting, all this was to be taken care of, and that's just what
Yeah.
we're trying to understand. from-
Well, there was,
and-
okay.
The thing is, how Mr. Arredondo got his, he still has a equal license, the same thing that you were through the transition, you lost that email. And, he was able to revert his status.
Yeah.
It's the same with money, we're trying to find out what all happened.
Well,
That
story's not completely written yet. We appealed that, and we have been granted a hearing on September 19th to appeal that because of the email, we didn't get the information, so we didn't.
Things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
How you say that, hey, it was lost.
Well,
Checking on that.
I hope I didn't say it was lost. I think that money started going to the bank, and something else on that, Ruben. The families of the and you're one of them, right? So the families were also, they got to where, they were their own auditors as well. They were watching, and deservedly so, that money, was that money that was supposed to go to the families got to the families. Okay, I don't have any doubt. Separate, yes, that money's we started funneling everything to the bank, and then stuff started coming to the bank. If something came to us, we'd take it to the bank, and all that got where it was supposed to go. None of that wasn't supposed to go to families or to the new school. None of that came into the, if it did, we wouldn't be running a $2 million deficit budget. We didn't, that money got to where it was supposed to go. I feel very confident saying that.
No, I know, I just saw there was two different parts, national compassion and funds for the school.
It is.
Okay,
Yes, it is.
and y'all got trust funds and everything
Yeah.
from there, it's been kept track.
Yes.
I was spending, the right way.
That's right.
Security,
Yes, yes.
that's.
Yeah, and the top three, all those are audits, so we have to be audited by the state, and we get graded. Yes, sir, we have to, so there's no way for us, so there's no way for us to hide it or to use it somewhere else, because we'd have to answer to it. And then the whole rock fund, that was handled, purposely, we did it the way we did it, where third parties handled the big monies, because we wanted to make sure we weren't having to deal with it. It was somebody else, external, not Mr. Patterson, not Mr. Harrell, none of the people were involved. It was all that company, National Compassion Fund. And it was purposely done, so that way everything was accounted for, right? So that way you could contact them and say, hey, where did all the money go? They would tell you exactly where it went. And then the only money that did come to us, and it's outlined in this form, was the Vegas money, the Raiders. That's the only thing that's there, and that's where he told me here that where we spent it already. Yeah. Yeah, and also the grants, those are the grants, social grants. So grants also have specifics what we can spend it only on. We can't spend it on salary, on like anything out of that grants area, as he explained, right? Is that if it's a grant, because I've applied for grants and it tells me, hey, I gotta spend it here. And then I have to send a report at the end of the year. Yes, it got sent here. And if something didn't get spent here, it goes, I get in trouble. That's, yeah.
That was the very original one that we.
Yeah.
And that was for fencing.
Fencing, correct.
And all the fencing was missed up and all that. Didn't you say, sir, that there was no more money, or was it the material that we couldn't get to fix that fence, which was part of the security reason? Because, well, that, and a lot of it was for that.
Well, it was the $1 million was to be spent on safety and security needs. And it was up to the local board to determine the best way to spend that money. Okay, so yes, fencing was one of the first things. So a lot of that money went to get us off, get us going on the fencing.
And then we had an issue with the fencing, and it was brought up that we didn't have no money, and then no materials and so on. Yes, no. That's.
I can't answer, I don't know.
I remember that.
This is referring to the fencing, those issues that came up. So why is the original contractor not allowed to go back and rebuild? So we see finish what those issues were.
I don't, I can't answer those types of questions because I don't know. That was before me, and that's not what we're here discussing tonight. But, I understand why, that might lead to some trust issues. I don't know about those things. I don't know about any, a lot of that stuff was donated too. Okay, a lot of stuff was donated, and we appreciate everything that people donated, and I need to say that and emphasize it. But some of the materials that were donated were not what we would have spec'd out. Okay, if we were going to build that ourselves, okay, you can understand that. And so some of that is what happened on some of the gating issues that we had. And so, but.
But if it was donated, you have to spend a lot of money for it. So,
Yeah.
Thinking about the contractors that we paid to build the fence, and they were in or whatever issue there was that they were having fencing. Why is the contractor not doing?
I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that. I'm not, I was, since I've been here, we moved along pretty good on fencing. So that's all I know.
we understand that's not, but it falls within your responsibility to for this.
That-
You're the superintendent, and if Mr. Everett was still on the payroll until the 31st. Hey, Al, what's up?
But I don't, I see, I don't even know the fencing issue y'all talking about. So yeah. Well, you're gonna have to be more specific, Ms. Proud. If there's,
It was kids going underneath the fencing.
True.
And at the high school, right past the tennis court, you got me southbound. That
Right.
first kid-
I was here for that.
Yeah, okay, that one was wide open, or the gap was this big, and then I don't know whose right idea it was to get, material from Tractor Supply and just add on to the bottom.
Well, that was my idea. Because that was that two things. Nobody ever came and told me ever that, hey, that gap looks, what if somebody tried to crawl it? Okay, so when we had the walkout, the kids crawled out under the fence. So I can't go get a contractor to build me a new gate and new entrance and all that in 24 hours. So I'm gonna go get some bull wire and I'm gonna strap it on there with duct tape if I have to, so nobody can crawl out of there the next day. And the reason there was a gap is because the designer of the gates at that time, we have to open those gates for buses all the way open, and there was a curb. And so the bottom of that gate had to be, when you opened it all the way to get the buses in, had to go over the curb. So that's the reason there was an initial gap. When we was brought to our attention by kids going out from under, then we said, we're gonna have to redesign the gate, which if you go over there, you'll notice it no longer swings, and now it's on slides. But I can't get anybody in there to put slides the next day, so this bright mind here said, let's put some bull wire on there so they can't crawl out tomorrow.
Okay, but it's all about the way the news, it's all about longevity, is for even for whoever that dude was that did it. And whoever.
That's not, but Ruben, that's not that particular instance that you said, that's not a design flaw. That's the fault of the contractor that he lifted it up to go over the curb. Okay, that we can't sue him for doing that and make him come back and do it at no charge because, you know, he lifted it up to go over the curb and we need to do new design. We got to pay for that new design. That's on us. Okay, that's not his fault. That's not the fence builder's fault.
It is his fault. He's going in the bid for you guys to give you guys a good product.
It was a good product. It just, it was just too far off the ground to clear the curb. There's nothing wrong with the gate. Well, I'd say, yeah, I'll take responsibility for it. I don't know that it's district oversight that we lifted those gates over the curb instead of all the way to the ground, because I never anticipated. Maybe it's you know, I don't know. Like I say, not one person in our community ever pointed that out until kids went out under the fence. And so at the same time, I found out.
Oh, I knew about it. I just didn't want it. Nothing was gonna be done. I was just really feel it. That's what every time I got trash, I would say, same thing around here, days at this school, that little bitty door right here on the side, you know. I wouldn't say nothing, so yes, I mean,
Well, you should. You should. I would encourage you to say something.
And we got off topic.
Yeah, we got off topic. In fact, I've got a whole lot more to talk about that you might not agree with. So
That's just what we're doing.
now, okay, okay, it's good. Next, Mr. President, open house schedule, trustees. Got a lot of open houses coming. You should have a copy of their schedule in your packet. And I know you enjoy going, and so we have that. I think there's one. Mika, I hate to put you on the spot. Did you tell me there was one in conflict where there was? Okay. Okay, good. Okay. Two campuses on the same day, but their times are different. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Patterson, have we assigned our new campuses for the year?
See, Mika sent the email.
Oh, perfect.
Okay.
You sent the email, right, Mika? Yes.
Okay, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Mika. All right, trustees, I do want to talk about another issue that's problematic, and that's House Bill 114. House Bill 114, the legislature passed. It's one of the few things they passed, but it states that students who are in possession of, using a vape of any kind are required to be placed in the district alternative education program. So we went back, Zeke went back and went back again to the state, to Texas Education Agency. They massaged the wording a little bit early on and caused some confusion, but in the end, it's a required placement. And so what we found in just first 2 weeks of school, that our first class of BAP is full. And that's only 2 weeks in. And this is a problem all over our state. If it wasn't a serious problem, then the legislature would not have ever required this in the first place. It got to their attention, so they just blanket pass a law. Here in Uvalde, well, last spring, when we were trying to deal with this issue, as it became more evident and serious it was, we would get parents in, we'd talk to them, we could have contracts, we could have conferences, we could have good time, we could have first offense, not as much as second, third. We could do a lot of things between our campus administrators and our hearing officers and our parents. Now we just have to place them in DAP. So I think that'll all get addressed in time, but for right now, it's a problem for us. We're going to have to hire an additional DAP monitor probably real quick, right, Zeke? Because if the next 2 or 3 weeks are like the first 2 or 3 weeks, then our number is going to go from 20 to 40 to 60, and that's not good for anybody. It takes them out of the classroom. And so we'll continue. What we need to do is we know we need to raise awareness. It's a family school issue. We're not distributing vapes when they walk in the door, right? They're bringing them from outside, and they're easy to hide, and it's a real problem for us. I just wanted the board to be aware that we're on it. We're kind of handcuffed right now.
Are they required so many days? Or how many was?
Zeke, help us out here. The question is there a set requirement of days?
Minimum is 30 days. Minimum 30. Yes.
So there you go. You can't rotate them in and out. You can't. So we just don't have the space or the the monitors right now. So we're going to have to continue to add those.
It's a lot of missed instruction.
It is.
Yeah, it's a lot of missed instruction.
I don't think they thought the whole process through.
No.
I mean, they wanted to, but
It's
then I'll
really
think
strange, because we've been hearing about it every time we go to trainings at Region 20, San Antonio have been just, every time we talk to leadership, they've been saying, they've been for years now. This is a growing problem. It's a growing problem. Trying to talk to the legislature about it, and they just.
Well, they finally got enough of it, so they use a sledgehammer, and you could use a pair of tweezers or something, I don't know. It's just, this will backfire just because of lost instruction and UIL activities and all of these things, because it's but right now we're just trying to raise awareness but the vape is one of those rare discipline issues that come along. It's so hard to detect. The size of it, students can hide it in their shoe, in their undergarments, in their backpacks, and some leave them tape them to the bottom of the tank of the commodes in the bathroom and come back and get them the next day. So, so it's just hard, very difficult to monitor that. Well, I'm that the safety issue was kind of an open forum. That'd be more left up to the president of the board, just to ask questions on as we move through the agenda. I hope that doesn't seem inappropriate, but
that's great.
I don't understand your response.
I'm not necessarily supposed to engage in matters with public participants as we move through the agenda. It's not my decision to engage. The safety part of this was an exception. That's all. No disrespect.
Because the board has protocol for meetings, and you allow it to happen in the boardroom. We should allow it for others. I'm not advocating for it, but I'm sitting here waiting for a particular agenda item, and I have to wait an extra hour.
Well, that's probably my fault, not the president's fault. The safety issue, there's a lot of questions on finances and this, and so I allowed that to become an open discussion. But the president said that you could ask a question if you have is it the vaping?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to make a comment and ask a question, and it actually involves the safety as well. It's kind of a multi
purpose comment. And that is that I am concerned about the safety factor, that we're not considering the fact that some of these students may come in with weapons and we don't have a weapon detector. Any kind of weapon detection in any of the schools, we can keep the people out. But what about the students that come in with a weapon, A, and then B, these systems which I have submitted to Mr. De La Fuentes previously about a weapons detection monitor system could also detect the vaping devices, because this is not a metal detector, it's a weapons detector, and it can be fashioned and formed in such a manner that it could indeed identify a vaping device along with a weapon. We know that we had some kids here in Uvalde who had a gun, a 9mm with a silencer. One had a shotgun, sawed-off shotgun. You don't have the weapons detection. You can keep the bad guys out, so to speak, if you think they're the bad guys. But who knows who the bad guy is that's walking in with a gun. So I think that's something that we need to look at. I would ask you to, I'd like to send you some information again on that. I would like for you to consider looking at that and responding and having a little bit of dialogue about that. Simply because we know these kids in town are dealing with weapons. They have them. It's an issue. And I think that to ignore that would be wise, and I think it'd be a really great way to let the kids know if you walk into the vaping device, we're gonna know.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Uh, Yes, last thing for me, Mr. President, is enrollment update. As of today, we had an enrollment of 3,766 students. Last year at this time, we were at 3,724. So that's, we're just level. Yeah, side increase 46 or so students, or 40. Let's see. 42 students, is that right? And and our attendance rate at the end of last Friday was 91.37, which is really we'd like to see, never satisfied. Like to see that up a little more, but that is, last year at this time, we were dealing with 87s and 88s throughout most of last year. So we're off to a good start. Our campuses are working real hard at encouraging the students to come. So we're about at the same enrollment, and our attendance is up. So that's a very, very good thing. And with that, Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Thank you, sir. Very informative report. Appreciate it, sir. Move on to number 4, consent agenda. 4A, minutes of the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees held on July 17, 2023. B, item information regarding maintenance and operations. C, item information regarding transportation. D, item information regarding SFB. E, item information on the district's investment activity for July 2023. F, item information on the district's credit card activity for July 2023. G, item information for revenues and expenditures as of July 2023. H, item information on the tax collection activity for July 2023. I, item information for the district's federal program activity for July 23. Does any board member wish to pull any item from consent agenda? Seeing and hearing none, entertain a motion for approval.
Mr. President, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented by administration.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Mr. Javier Flores, second by Ms. Laura Pettis. Any further discussion? Seeing, hearing none, all in favor? Motion passes unanimously with Mr. Fowler and Mr. Lambert not present. Moving on to items 5, items of Division of Administration Operations. 5A, consider approval of 2023-2024 4-H organizations as an extracurricular activity and adjunct faculty status for Uvalde and Zavala County agents. Mr. Patterson.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, Mr. De La Fuente is going to walk us through that. This should be an annual, I hope this is not the first time y'all have seen
No,
this.
we did it every year.
Every year, yes. Okay, Zeke, please.
Board President, school board members, thank you. Good evening. This is just a yearly thing that we do for 4-H county agent coordinators and adjunct faculty. Melinda Flores and Noel Troxler direct 4-H activities for Uvalde County. Leslie Dominguez directs activities for Zavala County. In approving each as adjunct faculty, they will be considered sponsors for 4-H activities, allowing Uvalde CISD to count students in attendance while participating in 4-H activities. My recommendation is that we approve our 4-H adjunct coordinators.
Mr. Board President, I recommend that we approve 4-H activities as extracurricular activities and approve Melinda Flores and Noel Troxler from Uvalde County and Leslie Dominguez from Zavala County as adjunct faculty members for the 2023-2024 school year.
Okay.
I got a motion by Ms. Annabelle White, second by Mr. JD Suarez. Any further discussion? Other than I think 4-H is just growing all big again.
Oh,
I see a lot of it. It's good. All
That
right,
is very good.
all in favor? Motion passes unanimously. 5B, consider approval of the resolution regarding a no recall for UCAD board member, Mr. Patterson.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, you have.
Oh, thank you, Zeke, by the way. Sorry, sir.
Thanks.
You have in front of you a resolution. And just, I think everybody has been provided information on what's going on. But just for the record here, on July 28th, Southwest Texas Junior College, which is a member of the Uvalde County Appraisal District, filed a resolution calling for the recall of the Board of Director Javier Flores, citing his failure to meet residential requirements. And so that triggered a recall, if you will, and the other entities impacted on the Uvalde County Appraisal District, which the school district is one of those entities, has been asked to either favor or against, in favor or against this resolution calling for the recall of Javier Flores, and that's why it hits our board tonight.
Correct.
And we have a resolution there for you. If you would like for me to read part of that resolution, Mr. President, or do you want to?
Sure, yeah, go ahead if you'd like to. Yes, sir.
Whereas the Uvalde Consolidated Independent School District has a total of 212 votes to cast for or against a resolution calling for a recall of Mr. Flores. And the Uvalde Independent School District, by action of the whereas on August 28th, which is today, the Uvalde Consolidated Independent School District, by action of the Uvalde Independent School District Board of Trustees, will vote to support or against the recall. This resolution states that the Uvalde Consolidated Independent School District will vote to cast 212 votes in favor of no recall of Board Director Javier Flores and 0 votes for the recall. And so, Mr. President, that's the resolution before the board.
The this item right here on the agenda is kind of like put this district and the city in between a rock and a hard place. Because one, the Batesville, they pay school and college taxes. And yet here we have a resolution saying, you know, it's a case of taxation without representation. And if you were in the Maldiv federal case, that was one of the things that I testify against this district, saying you just want us for our money, but not to have a say so on how you spend the money on the budget. Yeah. So but then at the same time, it's the manual for the board of directors, you know, does not cover consolidations from the county to this one, and it also does not cover when you close down a school like Big Wells and Asherton, and they go to a different county. And as you know, that there's a lot of schools throughout the state that are being closed down and going somewhere else. So when I spoke with April from the property tax specialist at the Texas Comptroller's Office, I asked 2 questions. I said, has anybody from Uvalde asked for guidance or an exception to the rule or a waiver? Because, I mean, it's, you know, you put in the Batesville folks, it's like, hey, pay the taxes, but, you know, you don't have no say-so on how your money is being spent for the budget. And like I said, it's between a rock and a hard place, and I mean, and nobody, none of the other entities call for guidance, and I mean, and it's, I mean, when we vote, I'm gonna abstain because, of course, you know, when I testify against this district, it's gonna go ahead and it's like, well, now you're going back on your testimony that it's okay for them to tax them. But then on the other side, it's like, I'm actually going against a law or something in writing that the state says. And April from Austin, she said that she agrees with me that maybe later on in the future, they need to change that because as the state is closing down schools, they need to be given individuals from the town to represent those taxpayers. And so, I mean, and I know that I think there was something that got changed. Remember with allowing school districts to go to a different school district to pick up children. I mean, and I've done it at the federal level, in the military, where you request things, you request waivers or you request
For residency purposes.
yes. And the other thing that I discovered during this is like that Batesville back then, and 14 years ago, it didn't it wasn't the website. We were changed. And then also the other thing
On the
that-
UCAD website?
Mhm.
Okay, got you.
The other thing that helped the Maldiv case and settle it is that testimony where we proved that the education was not being given at the same the taxpayers over there as here. And the last thing is that on the last election, Batesville's not even in the voting, the West Zone, but yet we've been voting for this district since the 70s. So if you're gonna recall this, are you gonna recall all the elections in the past?
Yeah, and I think it just, yes, that's what the rule says, right? But like you said, you know, and for us to vote for a recall would be almost, in my mind, going back on our promise on the Maldiv resolution that we did.
Represent.
And so I'd much rather honor that contract and honor what we did for Maldiv and vote for a no recall, because you are representing Batesville, which is very much of us. Yes, because I mean, they get taxed and they're paying it. So they so hardly deserve to have somebody represent them, and that's you. They've elected you to be the representative from Batesville. And I don't see how that rule is saying, no, too bad, so sad, but yeah, giving me your money, but nobody's gonna represent you. So that's the way I see it. And the other thing I see, you've been there now 10 years, sir?
Is let me see, I
Almost
served in the community council, which was covered this county and 5 counties for about 2 or 3 years after it dissolved, and then I served 11 years over there, 13 years here. So I mean, and you got to remember that I did not put my name on the ballot to run for this. You know,
Everybody else nominated and everybody gets the votes, yeah.
And then the other question, ask yourself, is like, why did they take 11 years to find this out?
Well, that's what I'm gonna say, you know, it's never been an issue and everybody's been fine with it, but, you know, we did have new changes in the board and all of a sudden it's become an issue. So to me, it seems like that's more what's causing the issue than necessarily you being a representative of Batesville, which once again, we know as a district know why you're there and why Batesville deserves that representation from you. And like I said, I'm not willing to go against that Maldiv resolution that we did, because like I said, in my mind, it'd be like a slap in the face to that group to say, hey, we just did it to get it off and now we're just gonna go back. So I'd rather not do that. I'd rather honor that because we know how
prevalent that is to our history and how much we actually have worked to continue not going back on anything that we said we were gonna do. So that's why I'm in full support of it. And of course, it'll be up to the board how we vote. Of course, you're gonna abstain. So being that we have 3 members, I'll be the 4th to make it a quorum, depending whichever way we go.
The one thing that, I mean, even if the other entities vote me out, it's like, I mean, it's thanks, I thank the community, I mean, I thank the board over there and the entities that voted for me, not knowing that this, that this was in and the board of directors manual, and I do recommend that either them or us, if I get replaced or when I get replaced, to make sure that you have somebody that deals with the school districts, because as earlier, as you saw the budget, a lot of the action that they take over there, affects
Us
the ARA directly,
Also make sure to check on Batesville, because forever, it's just been a history that Batesville gets the shaft, property wise, school wise and whatnot. And you've done an excellent job of always bringing their interests, to both boards. So you've done your job well.
Yes, sure. All right, with that being said, I'll entertain a motion for approval of a no recall.
Mr. Board President, I make a motion that we approve the resolution of a no recall of UCAD Board of Director Javier Flores and allot 0 votes for recall. I'll second.
Okay, got a motion by Ms. Annabelle White, second by Ms. Laura Pettis. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor?
Abstain.
Motion passes unanimously with Mr. Flores abstaining. Thanks so much. All right, moving on to 5C. Consider approval of Texas Education NC annual expedited waivers. Mr. Patterson.
Is Mr. Keith, there he
There
is.
he is, coming up.
Cash, could you, brief explanation of the expedited waiver agenda item, please?
Yes, sir. There's a handful of waivers that districts apply to, some of them every 3 years, some of them you have to do annually. The ones in front of you now are ones that we bring to you on those regular intervals. You have them for various reasons that I outlined in the agenda item, but if you have any questions on any particular one, I'd be happy to try to clarify them for you.
So Cash, what we're asking for is to approve the teacher data portal of the
okay.
text. Oh, is that the wrong one?
That's one of them. Yes, sir.
And the staff development waiver?
Yes, sir. There's just 2 of them on one item.
Okay.
The data portal allows us to use, in our case, is Eduphoria. We give access to teachers to see student level data on their state scores. And the staff development waiver allows us to utilize, it used to be 3 days, now it's up to 2,100 minutes, I believe, of your required 74,600 during staff development days to go towards those minutes that are required annually for districts.
All right, Mr. President, I'm recommending the board approve the teacher data portal of the Texas Assessment Management System and the staff development waiver applications as presented by Mr. Keith.
Mr. Board President, I make a motion to approve the teacher data portal of the Texas Assessment Management System and staff development waiver applications.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. JJ Suarez, second by Mr. Javier Flores. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Moving to 6 items of Division of Business and Finance. 6A, consider approval of accounts payable checks for July 23 and 3rd. Mr. Patterson.
Yes, sir. Mr. President and Board of Trustees, the next several items are going to be dealing with approving and adopting the budget, the tax rate, extensions of current lost my thought. We'll be covering agenda items, budget, tax rate approval, extensions, insurance, compensation plans. And Ms. Bendeley is going to be taking you through the next several agenda items as we work through the budget and tax rate and some other business items that come up during the course of the start of the school year, not necessarily during the middle. Ms. Bendeley, consider approval of accounts payable and checks for July 23rd. Ms. Bendeley, our finance committee, which is made up of Mr. Suarez, Master Chief, and board president, the practice of this board is for our finance committee to review the accounts payable and then make a recommendation to approve those or not. Do you have any thing to add to that other than the regular business item of approving those accounts payable?
No, sir, I don't.
Okay, and Mr. Suarez, y'all get a chance to preview them this month?
Yes, sir, I did. Did not get a chance to talk to the Master Chief Lambert, but I didn't see any discrepancies. So I do make a motion to approve the accounts payable for the month of July 2023 as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion by Mr. JJ Suarez, second by Ms. Laura Pettis. Any further discussion? I was gonna say that I did take a look at them as well, because I get them as well, and everything look just as normal as always. So with that first said, all in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. 6B, consider approval of the adoption of 2023-2024 district budget.
Mr. Lindley?
Yes, sir. We met with the finance committee last Thursday.
Somewhere
I
around
think
there.
somewhere.
Way too long already. Yeah.
And we did review the budget and the tax rate and in pretty good detail. And I feel like it's a fair budget. I mean, I hope we have more revenue and we will continue to watch expenditures because I don't really like adopting a deficit budget, but you know, we also did some things for our staff that were needed. So I feel like, you know, it's a very workable budget.
Just one item of information, trustees, that we expect at some point for the governor to call a special session to release that money that was set aside for public education. We don't know when that'll be, but you know, if that does happen, that'll make our budget look quite a bit better than it does right now. But we'll hope for the best, which when you're hoping for the legislature to bail you out, you're not in a very good place. But we'll see. So are there any questions of Ms. Bentley? Like I said, we spent some time in the budget committee, finance committee. She went over all the figures earlier.
I think just keep us up to date with the Senate Bill 1, you know, how it's, they haven't set a date for the effective date when they're gonna change the homestead. I know we're doing it with 100,000, basing it on 100,000. But
Yes.
you know, hopefully they'll give us a set date so we can.
I think they very much think that that's going to pass in November.
That'll be, yeah. That'll be
Because it's a
voted on.
competition
Yes.
on the ballot, right? It's gotta go to the
Yes,
ballot.
it will be on the
ballot.
November general election.
Yes,
So,
because even though our legislature have passed it technically, or gonna, they still gotta wait for us to give it there.
yes, for the taxpayers.
Yeah.
You know, I think they're very confident that it's going to pass.
Yeah. Okay. If no further questions, Mr. President, I recommend we approve the 23-24 general operating, child nutrition and debt service budgets as presented in your packet, and Ms. Bentley this evening.
Mr. Board President, I make a motion to approve the 23-24 general operating child nutrition and debit service budget that's presented.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. JJ Suarez, second by Mr. Javier Flores. Any further discussion? Other than our presentation earlier was great, very detailed, very, lot of information, good information.
Thank you. Hopefully
Appreciate
we'll keep providing good information. I hope.
And also, like, when is it that you say, can't wait for that special session to get that good news? I mean, I just can't ever remember. Hey, sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. 6C, consider approval of the certified appraisal roll and the supplemental appraisal roll for the Uvalde Consolidated Independent School District. Ms. Bentley.
Ms. Bentley, yes.
Yes, sir. In working with our consultant, Mo Casey, the law was not clear as far as what role the board needed to approve. So therefore, we have presented the roles with the 40,000 homestead exemption and with the 100,000 homestead exemption for all three counties, Real, Uvalde, and Zavala, as the appraisal districts had presented them to us.
Just in case.
Cover all the bases.
Yes, ma'am.
And well, they expect it to pass. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay. No need talking what if.
No. All right, entertain a motion for approval.
Mr. President, I move to approve and accept the certified and supplemental appraisal rules for the tax year 2023 for the Uvalde Consolidated Independent School District as recommended by administration.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Mr. Javier Flores, second by Representative White. Any further discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to 6D, item information on acceptance of the no new revenue tax rate and voter approval tax rate for the tax year 2023.
Ms. Lindley?
Yes, sir. As I presented in the public hearing with our tax rates, this is an information item, so it will not have to be acted on. But just to provide you with what the tax rates would be. So this year's no new revenue tax rate for M&O is about 88 cents. And the voter approval tax rate is at the 71 cents. If we don't adopt the 71 cents, then we would have to go for a tax ratification election. So this is just an information item of information.
Okay, thank you.
And we'd like to reiterate that it's a 26-cent reduction on taxes.
Yes,
Just throwing that out there.
yes.
From the rooftops.
All right, I entertain a motion for approval.
No,
No,
no.
it's informational.
Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. I just want to approve everything. Do it.
You were just so excited about it.
I know.
Information.
Hey, it's a tax reduction for once. We say, hey, we reduced it 26 cents for you. All right, going on to letter E. Consider approval of a resolution to set tax rate for school year 2023-2024.
All right, as presented tonight, our M&O tax rate, we would like to adopt the 71 cents, 0.7107, and a debt service rate of 0.0675 for a total tax rate of 0.7782, which is a 26-cent reduction from the previous year.
Thing is, mentally, I was gonna say, and repeat. Let me repeat.
I would like to make the motion to approve the adoption of the M&O tax rate of 0.7107 and the debt service tax rate of 0.0675 for a total tax rate of 0.7782 as presented.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. J.D. Suarez, second by Representative White. Once again, 26 less. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to F, consider approval of budget amendments. Mr. Patterson.
Ms. Lindley?
Yes, sir. As we had discussed in the Finance Committee meeting last week, this is the final budget amendment for the school year. And what we usually do at the final budget amendment is, since the students started August 14th, then we get to recognize revenue from the 14th through the 31st from the state. But at the same time, we also have to show the expense or accrue the expenses for the teachers from the time they came on contract through August 31st. And so we have the proposed amendment. And like we had talked at the Finance Committee, I do not feel like this is all going to be spent by any means, but having been here for about 7 or 8 weeks, I don't want any surprises. And it's not like we can really spend this money from now till Friday. So it helps, and then we don't have a chance of any audit findings by overspending by any function. So really, most of it is a precautionary and to record the revenue for the students being here since August 14th.
Yes, sir. If there's no questions, Mr. President, I recommend the board approve the general fund budget amendment number 8 and food service budget amendment number 3.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Board President, I make a motion to approve the general fund budget amendment number 8 and the food service budget amendment number 3 as presented.
Second.
All right, motion by Mr. J.D. Suarez, second by Mr. Javier Flores. Any further discussion? Seeing heard none, all in favor? Motion passes unanimously. 6G, consider approval of donation from the Uvalde CISD Education Foundation. Mr. Patterson.
Yes, sir. The district has received a check in the amount of $31,295.37 which will be used to reimburse the district for the cost of the $100 shopping spree for each teacher, which was certainly is, I heard that was a highlight of years past, and I was able to view that firsthand, and almost got run over by several shopping carts.
I was gonna say, you didn't go down the aisles, did you?
No, I stayed up at the front. So as you know, that the board has to approve these donations, so we're recommending that we approve this donation in that amount from the foundation.
And from what I heard, we had our first ever $100 on the dot shopper. We had 5 people. Dang, I only heard of one. Yeah. Awesome.
Wow.
They're getting good. Took 4 years, but they finally. All right, I entertain a motion for approval.
Mr. Board President, I recommend we approve the donation from the Uvalde CISD Education Foundation as presented. I'll second it.
A motion by Ms. Sandoval White, second by Ms. Laura Pettis. Any further discussion other than thank you, Uvalde CISD Foundation? Great, and the teachers appreciated it a lot as well. All right, no further ado, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
We've already done the motion.
Oh, sorry. Well, motion passes for unanimously. Sorry, I lost my track. I was too excited again. All right, going to 26 cents. That's still in my brain. That's gonna be my talking point for anybody when I start a conversation. You remember those 26 cents we reduced? Moving on to H, consider approval of 1-year extension of RFP 2208-01 for physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech language pathology, and school psychology services. Mr. Patterson.
Ms. Bentley?
Yes, sir. This was originally approved during the August 29th, 2022 board meeting, and the RFP was written to have up to 3 for a 3-year contract renewed annually. So we'll do 1 year at a time, up to 3, and then we would have to go back out for requests for proposals at that end of that time. And by speaking with special education, they did want to continue with the services.
Okay, so, Mr. President, we're asking the board to approve to extend the contracts with SA Therapy in Motion not to exceed $150,000 and Assessment Intervention Management LLC not to exceed $75,000 for an additional year.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Board President, I recommend that we approve to extend contracts with SA Therapy in Motion not to exceed $150,000 and Assessment Interventions Management LLC not to exceed $75,000 for an additional year.
Second.
Got a motion by Ms. Laura Pettis, second by Mr. JD Suarez. Any further discussion? Seeing, hearing none, all in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Going on to I, consider approval of 1-year extension of RFP 2208-02 for the purchase of food service non-food items. Mr. Patterson.
Ms. Bentley?
Yes, sir. And speaking with the food service department, they have requested a 1-year extension on this. This was originally approved during the August 29th, 2022 board meeting and was written as you can have up to 3 contracts renewal at a extended 1 year at a time. And they've requested a 1-year extension.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. President, we're asking board approve to extend the award of the proposals from the following food service, non-food vendors for the 23-24 school year. That would be Gulf Coast Paper Company, Cisco USA, and Interboro Packaging Corporation.
Entertain a motion for approval.
Mr. Board President, I recommend that we approve to extend the award of the proposals from the following food service, non-food vendors for the 2023-2024 school year. Gulf Coast Paper Company, sorry, Cisco USA, and Interboro Packaging Corporation.
Got a motion by Ms. Laura Pettis, second by Mr. Javier Flores. Any further discussion? Seeing, hearing none, all in favor, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to J, consider approval of 1-year extension of RFP 2208-03 for the purchase of district/campus shirts, apparel, and other customized items. Mr. Patterson.
Ms. Bentley?
Yes, sir. This is the last in our extensions of 1 year. that was approved, were approved at the August 29th, 22 board meeting. And again, we want to extend for the second of the third year for 4Imprint, BSN Sports, Print House, Southwest Uniforms, 3D Impression, and Zinc Wear.
Mr. President, we're asking the board to approve and extend the awards of the proposals from the following shirt, apparel, and other customized items vendors as presented by Ms. Bendeley for the 23-24 school year.
Okay, I entertain a motion for approval.
Mr. Board President, we have to extend the award. The proposal from the following shirt, apparel, and other customized items vendors for the 2023-2024 school year. 4Imprint, BSN Sports, Prince House, SW Uniforms, 3D Impressions, and Zinc Wear. Represented.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Mr. Javier Flores, second by Ms. Annabelle White. Any further discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to K. No, we did K. No, yeah, we're on K. You had one more extension. You have one more extension. I thought the last one was your last one. You have one more, right?
I don't think it's an extension.
It says 1-year extension of hardware supplies and
Oh, I do. I'm sorry. I turned it. You are right. I'm sorry. I turned over too many pages.
Consider approval of 1-year extension of RP 2208-05 for the purchase of hardware supplies and building materials. I was making sure I didn't have something that I was supposed to have.
No, it was, I printed on back and
Okay.
front back and, okay. So our final one is for RFP 2208-5 is for hardware supplies and building materials. And again, it was approved originally at the August 29th, 22 board meeting. And we would like to extend for the second of the 3 years. And it is for Elliott Supply, TJ Moore, which is Ace, Morrison Supply Company, and Uvalde Supply.
Mr. President, I'm asking the board to approve to extend the award of the proposals from the following hardware supplies and building material vendors for 23-24 as presented by Ms. Bentley.
Entertain a motion for approval.
Mr. Board President, I recommend that we approve the extend the award of the proposals from the following hardware supplies and building material vendors for the 23-24 school year to include Elliott Supply, TJ Moore, Ace, Morrison Supply Company, and Uvalde Supply.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Mr. JD Suarez, second by Ms. Laura Pettis. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to letter L, consider approval of contract exceeding $50,000. Mr. Patterson.
Ms. Bendeley.
Yes, sir. The agenda item is to consider approval of contracts that at this point we know will be exceeding $50,000 for instructional supplies, software. You'll see Region 20's commitments in there. Also, this year, you'll see that the commitments are listed out with each individual price for a total of Region 20 of $88,212. Renaissance Learning is $204,650. Houghton Mifflin for $144,100 and IXL Learning for $67,800.
Mr. President, we recommend that the board approve the expenditures from the categorical local funds to support the described programs, products, initiatives, and professional development intended to improve teacher quality, instructional practice, and student performance as presented in those items in excess of $50,000.
Entertain a motion for approval.
Mr. Board President, I recommend that we approve the expenditures from categorical or local funds to support the described programs, products, initiatives, and professional development intended to improve the teacher quality, instructional practices, and significant performances as presented.
Second.
Got a motion by Ms. Laura Pettis, second by Mr. Javier Flores. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Letter M, consider approval of 2023-2024 property and casualty insurance. Mr. Patterson.
Ms. Bendeley.
Yes, sir. We've worked with the district's insurance provider, Lavernia Insurance, and have reviewed the property and casualty insurance as they presented. As talked about in the public hearing, it is an almost 30% increase in the premiums. I know they worked very, very hard to keep those as low as they can. And, you know, as I'd mentioned in the public hearing, it's not just Uvalde. It's other districts. My former district had a huge increase. I think it's just the times that we live in. And I know they've worked hard. We did add extra buses and vehicles last year that brought it up a little bit. And one thing that I wanted to point out is that the premium does include 61,696 for a deductible buy down plan for I believe that's for like wind damage and that kind of thing. So.
And with the weather today, you just don't know what you're gonna get.
Mr. President, we're recommending that we approve Lavernia Insurance Property and Casualty Company as presented by Ms. Bentley for coverage for the 23-24 school year.
Entertain a motion for approval.
Mr. Board President, I make a motion that we approve the property and casualty insurance as presented. Second.
Got a motion by Ms. Sandoval White, second by Ms. Laura Pettis. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to letter N. Consider approval of 2023-2024 compensation plan. Mr. Patterson.
Yes, sir. Trustees, Mr. President, and trustees, would like to give you a brief overview of the compensation package. I believe Mr. Harris is here to walk us through that. Will be, as part of the budget, you approved a compensation package, and we wanted to make sure that we took a little time to go over that so everybody understood and ask any questions. So,
Let those in that room back there. I don't think.
Pardon?
I was gonna ask, I was like, yes, I'm printed. I'm like.
okay.
I had pictures. I was just gonna slide for y'all.
We really appreciate the senior staff's commitment to staying here.
No, sir, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Mr. Board President, board members, thank you so much for being here and doing all the good work for the district. Today, I'll be brief. I'm going to talk to you about the compensation plan. We worked with the senior staff of what we could do to be able to provide for our employees this coming year. So the first thing we want to do is want to make sure we take care of our paraprofessionals. And so we looked through and we made recommending a 3% increase based on the midpoint of their salary range. So that would go anywhere from $680 up to $1,400, depending on where they are on the pay scale. We also wanted to make sure that all our employees that are on a step schedule received $1,000 to their salary. And these are all the best practices that we follow by TASB. So looking on the page, what's going to be the whole thing, teachers, librarians, RNs, everybody, they'll get $1,000. We talked earlier with Ms. Penley, that's going to be about $320,000 to cover those. Administration professionals, principals, counselors, instructional coordinators. We're also going to approve $1,000 for them. That covers about $86,000 of the budget. And then that includes special education professionals as well, receiving $1,000. All the others up there receiving 3% upon the midpoint. With that, we ask that you approve the compensation plan as proposed.
Mr. President, trustees, you may have seen some districts in the paper reported with percentage increases, and we feel like although it's never enough, I think we can always agree that it's never enough. 3% is trying to be pretty competitive. There's been a couple outliers who jumped out there and a little more, but we feel like 3% is at least competitive. And shows our staff that the board is willing to do whatever they can to compensate them, even if it means going into a deficit budget. So we're here, all of us are here to answer any questions you might have. But Mr. President, we're asking the board approve the 23-24 compensation plan as presented.
I think with the budget that we had and not knowing what the state's gonna do, we still took a gamble and we decided to give something anyway. So that speaks volumes of how we value our employees.
I cannot thank y'all enough. This is always a big something that we strive for, and we cannot do it without y'all. So thank you so very much. Thank you. And with that being said, Mr. Board President, I make a motion that we approve the 2023-2024 compensation plan as presented.
Got a motion by Ms. Hannibal White, second by, just beat out by a second, Javier Flores. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion passes unanimously. And moving on to 7 items of division of curriculum and instruction, consider approval of T-test appraisers for the 2023-2024 school year.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, gonna ask Norma Carranza to walk us through these next 2 agenda items. So the first one, Norma, has to do with the T-test appraisers.
So, good evening. In front of you, we do have the listed certified appraisers and even those in progress. And they're identified by campus and by central office locations. So we're asking you approve these evaluators, appraisers.
Now, Ms. Carranza, just for information, the T-test is the instrument that's used to evaluate our teaching staff, correct?
Teachers, yes, their instruction. So it is the Texas Teacher Evaluation Support System, which is the, blanket appraisal system that we use. For evaluation.
And our administrators have to go through training in order to be certified. So what you have in front of me is that list. So we're recommending that the board approve the T-test appraisers for 23-24 as presented by Ms. Carranza.
Yes, and just to note again, some are still in the process, but they're already here because they're about to finish.
Right.
Okay.
And those are almost our current new
Our new-
administrator hires, right,
yes.
that we had to add. Okay, I entertain a motion for approval.
Mr. Board President, I move for the, make the motion to approve the T-test appraisers for the 2023-2024 school year as presented.
Second.
Got a motion, Mr. Javier Flores, second by Mr. JJ Suarez. Any further discussion? Seeing, hearing none, all in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to 7B, consider approval of T-test calendar for the 2023-24 school year. Mr.
Yes,
Patterson.
sir, Ms. Carranza.
Okay, so the calendar is for, so the teachers are aware and they're prepared and they're trained to be evaluated. So this is a calendar which starts in August, which they are trained in the T-test process. And then if you continue to look through the calendar in September, there's different tasks that the principals will do with their teachers to make sure that they're prepared, and they give them deadlines to make sure that everything is turned in and everything is documented for their appraisers.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, we recommend the board approve the T-test timeline for 23-24 as presented.
I entertain a motion for approval.
Mr. Board President, I recommend that the board approves the T-test timeline for the 2023-2024 school year as presented. I'll second.
Got a motion by Ms. Laura Pettis, second by Ms. Annabelle White. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor? Motion passes unanimously. We have reached number 8.
Sir.
A closed session will be held under provisions of Texas Government Code Chapter 551, Sections 551.071 and 551.074. A, deliberation concerning approval of personal employment, assignments, suspensions, and termination. It is 8:35 PM and we will convene in closed session. It is now 9:16 PM and we've reconvened from closed session. Number 9, reconvene from closed session for action relevant to items covered during closed session and other items listed. 9A, consider and take possible action regarding the superintendent search process and timeline. Mr. President.
Trustees, you have in your packet a timeline titled Uvalde CISD Superintendent Search Tentative Timeline. The reason it's tentative is because you haven't voted on it yet. And there's I'll call your attention to the bottom of the page where there's an asterisk. Yeah, thank you. All times and dates are subject to change by the board. There could be conflicts that come up. And so if the board approves a timeline tonight, then just hit the highlights here. That the vacancy will be posted on September 1 with Region 20, TASA, and Texas ISD. Sophie, if the board approves this, you can have a copy of one of these too, because there'll be a lot of interest in the schedule probably. Then the September 19th through the 22nd, that really doesn't have anything to do with the board. That's just when Dr. Woods and Alex will come out and meet with the get input. Also that what we would do is if the board approves this timeline, is that we would send we'd post to the community, send emails to all of our email recipients, parents, and everybody else that's on the list, guardians, and then also business and community. And we will have the survey for community and staff and we will start soliciting input from all those groups on the survey. And the survey will be posted on our website and there'll be directions there as well. Then the consultants will meet on a couple days during September 19th, 22nd. October 13th, the applications will close at 5 PM on October 13th. Then the 23rd will be an important board meeting where the board, with the search consultants, the board would review applications and select applicants for interviews. And then on October 25th through November 3rd, then the first round interviews will be conducted during that time. And then the 6th through the 8th of November, further interviews at that time. So I think we need to, if anybody has a conflict between the 25th and November 3rd, if you have a date conflict, if you could tell me that, if you have your calendar, just let me know so we can stay away from those days. The Master Chief sent me some conflict dates, and his were the 25th, 26th, and 27th of October were his dates of conflict. So that would really push your interviews to the 30th and 31st.
I sent you the 25th. That's the homecoming parade.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so Cal had that conflict, Master Chief had that conflict. So I would suggest that that we look at the 30th, 31st, and the 1st and go for that, unless there of a conflict that you have right now. Okay.
I leave for a conference the 28th and back to 30th, but I should be back in time for that.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, I'll just make sure I get it early.
Okay.
That 30th and be.
And again, they're all subject to change if we run into conflicts. We've got enough time built in there that we can move around on that.
Slack.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
and I think the parade would be the 26th, Thursday, 26th. The
No,
game is
I-
this year gonna be Wednesday?
No, because of the JV game, so
Oh,
last.
so we did it last year.
Yes,
Okay.
that's what's changed the tradition. We started that last year so as to not exclude kids.
Hopefully Kiwanis doesn't decide to do their Kiwanis parade. Halloween parade, the Halloween parade on the 25th.
They didn't do it last, I mean, we've been looking forward to where
Don't you do that
Halloween
this
is the
year?
next week.
Yeah, that Tuesday.
So they usually do it the same week as Halloween.
It falls on a Tuesday. Yeah, this one.
And Mr. President, the other item here is Region 20 Service Center. I sent you the trustees received a copy of this, I believe, and the Region 20 Educational Service Center has offered to extend all of their search resources to the board at no cost. And they have a large HR department. Alex is wonderful. And Jeff Goldhorn is very supportive. He's the one who brought it up to begin with. So they're going to provide all the resources from the service center and their HR department to handle a lot of the work associated with the search. And that means, advertising, taking applications, screening applications, calling references, checking transcripts, criminal background checks, all of those things you go through. That was on that sheet of paper. And I want to say to them, and to so many people through this process have just stepped up. And so there's the Region 20 will step up. They'll do a fantastic job, but there are a network of superintendents that have stepped up and offered to provide their expertise and knowledge on possibly good candidates for the board. So I feel really good about the process and happy to recommend, Mr. President, if you're ready, I'd be happy to recommend that the board approve Region ESC 20 to conduct the search process and to also approve the timeline as presented.
All right. Does the board has any other further questions? I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Mr. Board President, I'll make the recommendation to approve Region ESC 20 to conduct the search. And in addition to, do you need two separate motions? All right, and then to approve the tentative timeline for the search process.
Second. Got a motion by Mr. J.J. Suarez, second by Mr. Javier Flores. Any further discussion? Other than that, thanks to Region 20 for reaching out and willing to do that for us. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. All right, 9B, consider and take possible action concerning approval of personnel employments, assignments, suspensions, and terminations. Mr. Patterson.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, the board was presented with a list of possible of the hirings and resignations of personnel and assignment, suspension, terminations. And I'd ask the board to approve those as presented in executive session.
I entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. Board President, I make a motion that we approve the personnel employments, assignments, suspensions, and terminations as presented in closed session.
Second. Got a motion by Ms. Laura Perez, second by Ms. Javier Flores. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Number 10, adjournment. I entertain a motion for adjournment.
Mr. President, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion by Ms. Annabelle White, second by J.J. Suarez. Any further discussion or opposed to adjournment? I see none, hear none. So we stand adjourned. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.